Welcome to round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of April 19th. I'm Catherine Haleko, and I'm here with Terry Morrow.
Hello.
I'm Nicole Eridix.
Hi there.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for that day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes, worrying about something or other. Wednesday is complaint day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we're complaining about our kids' right to privacy and whether we think they should have it or not.
Or maybe they're complaining about our lack of recognition of such.
Yes, could be. So, Terry, this is something that you came across a discussion of.
Yeah, I listened to the Bobby Bones Show podcast, which is basically their radio show rendered in podcast form. And one of the things they were talking about one day was one of the people on the show, Eddie, was talking about if his son had a diary, he would for sure open that diary and read it. And I think Amy, who is on the show and has kids also, was saying, no, that's a violation of privacy. Bobby was saying, no, you shouldn't do that. Eddie was pretty adamant. If there's no secrets in my house. If my kid is writing down something, to be private about it, I want to know what it is. And so they then went on to a conversation about what if your wife was keeping a locked diary? Would you go into it? And that's a conversation for another time. But in terms of your kid, it got me thinking, I don't think either my children are big writers, so I don't think they would ever write something and not want me to look at it. From time to time, my daughter has written stuff in a journal, but she's never said, please don't look at this. In fact, sometimes she may have showed me stuff. I'm usually so busy that I don't exactly have time to snoop around looking for stuff to break into and read. But if I knew my kids when they were younger, if I knew they had something locked up that they didn't want me to see, I'd be taking that screwdriver to the little diary lock and seeing if I could get into it. Maybe a paperclip. What about you guys? Have your kids had my private thoughts keep out situations, and have you honored that? Or maybe you just, they're at school for a long time, they won't know. So, and then the problem with that is then if you secretly sneak around and get that information that you are not supposed to have, what do you do with it? Mm-hmm. That's the problem. So, how's it going with this friend? Anything you want to talk about?
Right.
Awkward.
Yeah.
But still, you want to know stuff.
I don't think that either of my kids have ever kept a diary that I was aware of. But, as you mentioned on Monday, Terry, the stuff that they post online is very similar in a lot of ways to a diary, right? I mean...
Yes, except everybody can see it.
Well, but not everybody, because, that's their, secret, how they all have, a second Instagram or whatever that...
True.
Only certain people follow or know about. And so... I liked your idea of the neutral third-party Navy SEAL monitoring it, because then the kid can have their privacy and their secret, and if something comes up that's dangerous or for whatever other reason a parent needs to know about it, then your SEAL can just inform you. So.
That's right. So this is where we enlist the older sibling or older cousin or older child of a friend of yours who can do some reconnaissance for you and intervene.
Yes.
At your behest, but without your child knowing that that's the case. Mm-hmm. Those people are so valuable. I used to use speech therapists for that too.
Really?
I think there's a problem here. Can you find out about it and then talk to her? Right. I can't do it.
Oh.
There were a lot of young women speech therapists who she saw as big sisters. So it's excellent. Tell her she needs to do this thing. She'll do it for you. She will not do it for me.
But, do they have a right to that privacy? I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I think in many cases they do, but, it is a safety issue sometimes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If they're writing about something that if you knew about, you would be able to help them, or, they're writing about another person who is in trouble. Or,
yes. Right.
that's where it becomes tricky.
Yeah.
And really, when you're lying in a dark room with a rag over your eyes worrying about things, you want to make sure you're worrying about the right things. What if you're worrying about something that's not really a problem and there's a whole other problem that is not getting your worrying energy? It's all for the kids, It's like I'm finding out your secrets so that I can target my emotional angst properly. Help me out, will you?
Yeah. I think it's definitely a fine line because I like to know where my kids are at and what they're doing. And I mean, I have some friends who are very adamant about, that's their personal life. That's their, don't ask about it. Don't inquire about it. Leave it alone kind of thing, attitude. But then what's interesting is that's created some really hardcore boundaries between them and their children. And now their children don't share a lot with their parents. Right? Like, and not that, I mean, not that you want to be like, tell me everything and then expect that in return, right? But it's like, maybe the conversation is, how much do we need to be talking to our kid? Like, what kind of conversations do we need to be having, right? Like, they're going to put stuff in their diary.
Yeah.
Do I have access to it? Yes. Do I want to know? Yes. Am I going to do it? It's 50-50 depending on the day. Depending on how stressed I am. I would like to, as a parent, I would like to think that I have overriding authority. That if I needed to break into it, I could. But then at the same time, it's like, I'm hoping that we have developed this situation where they can share, some of what's going on, that I wouldn't be totally shut out and be totally ignorant of it all.
Right.
Well, and also, Terry, I think you brought this up too. Like, if you find out something in a stealthy manner, then how do you bring that up with the kid?
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like, we've talked a lot about tracking them with GPS and stuff. I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, they went here or there, and later on, do I say like, oh, did you go to such and such a place? Like, now I have that information.
Yes.
And if I mention it, then they'll know how frequently I'm actually looking at that app. So I have to be judicious about when I actually mention what I learned from it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there's always the risk that you will find out something you really didn't want to know, like something that you've really wanted and pushed for your kid, the kid really hates, or, that friend you thought was so wonderful, the kid is having problems with. And it's like, oh, crud. Right. If I didn't know that, I could just go peacefully and blissfully on, but now I got to do something about it. Serves me right. But, in terms of privacy, I guess what I think is when the kids are young, you have no expectation of privacy. Your parent has to take care of you and they need to know everything. So no locked diaries, no, secrets. When they're older, like adults now living in my house, privacy falls under the category of one of those things I call rent. You're like, one of the things you pay me for staying for free in my house is you have no privacy. Thank you very much. Sign the lease here, please. So I'm going to be up in your business. That's the cost of living in this home. In between, like high school age and stuff, it's tricky. I don't know. When they're sort of becoming people and they have to still be living in your house, but they also are sort of becoming independent beings. I still would totally do it, but I might feel a little sheepish about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I grew up in an environment where there wasn't a lot of autonomy. There were there weren't a lot of boundaries, and that made me even more secretive. Like, even more, it's just kind of, it's tough. Like, cause I knew that my parent was making sure that they were aware of what I was doing. So that made me even more stealthier. I could have been a Navy SEAL.
There you go. Oh, dear.
I'd like to think that we do have a responsibility to know what's going on but we need to know when to not, when we have to back off. As with parenting,
yes,
it's always about walking that fine line. Too much or too little.
Yeah, I'm not so good at walking that line.
Yeah.
I see that it's there from my position way over on the other side. Oh, that's where I should be. Oh, well, as long as I'm over here, I'm going to look around.
Yeah. No. I don't know. I think I've gotten better, though. As my kids have gotten older, I've gotten better. As, I don't need to know as much or every little detail. I think a lot of it was can they handle it? Can they handle that situation that they're in? Are they handling it more so for their mental health and safety? That's why, I would want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, versus just plain old nosiness.
Yeah. It was more out of more out of concern for their safety and
that's it.
That's it. Sounds good.
Sure.
Maybe
that's why our kids' rooms are so cluttered, so that they can hide stuff and we'll just give up. That pile of sweaters in the corner is where the diary is hiding.
Dear, oh dear. Well, let's sign off so I can go and rummage around my daughter's room now.
She has notes written on each of those water bottles.
Exactly. Well, that's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll obsess about the lost year of the pandemic, and then on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundup picks this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you will find us at Roundabout Chat.